you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is going to be the update finally for Summerset for the Nirnfused DK. This is the advanced Dragonknight DPS build. So if you are not too advanced, you're not familiar with the DK really at all, or you're not too comfortable with really complicated stuff and keeping up with buff timers and all that good stuff, then you probably want to check out the Murder of Fire build, which is a lot of fun and also very, very viable. But this is for the advanced players out there for the Dragonknight. Now, this is very high damage, fairly good survivability because he's not too squishy, and the sustain is up to you. Now, I'm going to go first of all into the stats, and I am going to make sure I explain all the skills and everything in as much detail as I do in every other video, but you're going to have to pay very close attention to how this all lines up. So, we'll pop a potion first of all, buff up. We are sitting on 18.5k health, almost 36k max stamina, which will actually go at 36 if you gold all your stuff out, a couple of pieces of purple. 3.7k weapon damage, which is higher with our weapon damage glyph when we're actually in a fight. 67.6% crit chance, which is insane. 884 stam recovery, 14k spell resist, and 11k physical resistance. 64 points all into max stamina, and we're using max health, max stamina food, not the recovery stuff. We're of course a stage 4 vampire, and no, I'm not worried about fire because I stay out of it as much as possible. And of course we're using the Thief Mundus Stone. I want to make sure we push our crit chance as much as possible for the damage that we're doing from our dots, which is insane. We're doing so many damage over time abilities. That is what the DK is predominantly built for, and this setup is fully focused on damage over time. It's really, really high. So, first I'm going to go into the skills. We have Venomous Claw, which is in the Ardent Flame skill line. It's a second ability to unlock. It's very, very early in the game. It's Siren Strike to start with. It then turns into Venomous Claw if you morph it this way. So it's a stamina cost instead of magicka, and it does poison instead of fire. Now this is very, very aggressive. It's a single target damage over time poison ability that lasts 10.5 seconds. But the longer it's on the target, the more aggressive it gets. 12% increase to damage every tick of damage it does. So every 2 seconds, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Don't spam this. I've seen people do that in the past. Don't do it. Make sure you hit the target with this, let the full duration run, and then apply again afterwards. Next up is Rearming Trap. Of course, that is in our Fighters Guild skill line, if you didn't already know that, which is here. Now, what this does is it puts a trap down on the ground. Whoops, wrong button. Try again. Puts a trap down on the ground. Anything caught inside of that will take physical damage over 6 seconds and grant you 10 seconds worth of minor force, which is a crit damage bonus. So if you do crit, you have an increase to the damage that crit. Now, once it's done, it will pop again and rearm itself, doing damage for another 6 seconds and giving us minor force for another 6 seconds as well. So this is actually a 12-second duration. Now, if we look into here, of course, it does immobilize the target that it pins, or that it traps underneath it. However, this doesn't trap bosses, but it does still fire, it does still give you the minor force bonus, and it does still give you the physical damage over time as well. It's very, very powerful. Keep this in your rotation 100% of the time. Next is Flames of Oblivion. This is in our Ardent Flame skill line as well, if I can bloody find it. There it is. It's the last ability to unlock, so it takes some time. You will need to get this as soon as possible. This is a flex slot depending on the fight. Single target bosses or main fights where there's mostly single target, excluding a few adds, this is what I would use above all, of course, because it gives us major savagery the whole time it's on our bar, and it fires a fireball once every 5 seconds just for activating it. Now it lasts 15 seconds. What you do is you activate it. See the fireball here? Now that won't aggro anything. It won't hit nothing unless you have already started hitting it. And when you do, every 5 seconds it will fire a fireball at the target that you've got closest to you. Now this is based off of max stats. I know it costs magicka to cast and it does flame damage, but the higher your magicka, the stronger it is, or the higher your stamina, the stronger it is. It scales off of whichever resource is higher. For us, it's obviously stamina, so we benefit from that bonus. Now you see it's not hitting anybody, but if I aggro these, ignore those swirly things, there's the fireball. It hit the first target. And again, you get the idea. You can recast it to make it fire initially, but that situation is kind of when you're in the execute phase and you've got nothing else left to do. Now, you can switch this out for Steel Tornado in situations where there's lots and lots of adds. Where's my dual wield gone? There we go. Third ability in the dual wield skill line. This basically is your spin to win. So if you ever hear anyone say spin to win, this is what they mean. All you do is spin. Everything that gets hit by that will take damage. Now, it's physical damage. It really, really hurts. But The lower the enemy's health, the more damage it does. So when people are under low health, so around the 25% kind of area, this will deal more damage. Now that also does stack with the dual wield passive, but I'll get to those passives in a bit. Key point, however, this is bloody expensive. So if your group has a lot of damage, and if you're running this kind of setup and you're with people of equal kind of gear setup and skill level, if you like, your damage in your group is probably going to be quite high. So you can use this when things are low health just to finish them off really, really quickly. However, if you are in a group where the damage is not necessarily that high from other people, it will take longer to get all those adds and the trash down to low health. So you're going to be at risk of spamming this way too much and it won't be that effective. So again, in situations with lots of damage coming in from other people, fair enough. Situations where there's not, don't bother because you're going to waste your magic stamina. Rest of the time, keep this on. Now, the next ability is Bloodthirst. This is in the dual wield skill line. Told you this was an advanced build. This is for a reason. It's the first ability you unlock, and this is a flurry effect. It's actually called flurry to start with, which will stab the enemy multiple times, 5 times in fact, but the last hit will do 300% more damage. So it's really, really strong. It's your main spammable, in fact. It has a cast time, or a channeling time, if you like, of 0.6 seconds, so it's not that long. It's quite cheap, but this is our key skill to this overall setup. It's going to make a lot more sense when I get to the weapons, but this is very, very important. Now, you can use Rapid Strikes instead, which is the other morph of this, which does a little bit more damage on each hit. So each hit is progressively stronger. However, you're going to die, because I've seen countless people use it and you've got no protection whatsoever. It's ultra squish. For the tiny, tiny damage increase that you get from it, which actually amounts to around 300 or 500 extra damage overall on a full pass, it's not worth it. Instead, I choose this morph because not only does the last hit obviously do more damage, which does on both morphs, but you get 60% of the damage back in a heal. So, let's find something to hit. We'll hit this mud crab. He's not very strong, so don't expect anything special out of this, but I'm going to get him to hit me, so I lose some health. All I have to do is stab him, and I will heal. Here we go. As long as the last one connects, you'll heal. Now that gets really, really powerful. You saw a 1.3k heal there, which isn't massive, obviously because I didn't have that much health lost. But you can actually see the full effects of it if you do actually start to lose health. And you crit it. If you crit it, you're laughing. Come on, hit me harder. That'll do it. 3.9. Oh, killed him. You got to make sure the last one hits. 4k. Let's without a pot or anything. Let's put a potion on. Oh, we killed him anyway. We're full. You get the idea. It's nuts. It's inside your rotation. It's our main spammable. We're using it a lot. This keeps you alive in stupid situations. It's absolutely ridiculous. On a very important boss, which I won't go over because people go goo-goo over that trial, but I hit 0.0% health at one point, and this skill saved me alongside the vampire passives. It's absolutely nuts. I would highly recommend this skill for this build rather than Rapid Strikes, because Rapid Strikes will kill you and this will keep you alive. Now, the next ability is Blood Craze. This is also in our dual wield skill line. This is a damage over time effect, just like Venom Claw, so it attaches it to one target, but you can put it onto multiples if you want. It's quite close to the duration. Instead of 10.5 seconds, it's actually 9, so it's not too far off. But this is a physical damage over time instead of a poison. This is actually a bleed, which goes straight through resistances. So you don't need to worry about penetration, caps, or anything like that for this type of damage. A bleed goes through resists. Now, it does an initial hit, and then it does the damage over time as well. Now, Rending Slashes is the other morph of this, but the difference is Rending Slashes has exactly the same damage over time ability. It's exactly the same damage. But the initial hit, the physical damage hit, is a little bit higher. It's about 3k instead of 2.5 without buffs. However, this particular morph, if you look at the bottom of the skill, it actually heals you once every 2 seconds that the dot is applied. So as long as this is running on anything, whether it does a lot of damage or not, even if something's got a shield, you will actually heal once every 2 seconds. So for doing your damage, you heal. So Blood Craze will heal you every 2 seconds, and this will heal you every time that you finish this ability. It's really, really strong. The combination of the two makes a massive difference to your survivability, because as a DK, we are quite squashy. In general, anyway. Now, another thing you can swap out for Flames of Oblivion, if you are in a situation with lots of area of effect abilities, by the way, is Deadly Cloak. This goes on like so. Protects you from 25% of all area of effect damage, making you really tanky in the face of enemy if you need to. It does damage over time every 3 seconds as well, but that's not really what we use it for. I mean, it's nice, but that's more for a defensive kind of position rather than full out squish, do loads of damage. Up to you though, that's a choice you can make. Where are we? Ultimates. We are using Flawless Dawnbreaker, which is in the Fighters Guild skill line. Now, I will get to the passives in a moment, but this is mostly here for the passives. We don't really use this at all unless it's an oh shit situation. What I mean by that is, if you're low on resources, or the enemy's about to die and you haven't got enough ultimate to kill with your backbar ultimate, you haven't got any time to build it up, then you can use this. The rest of the time, don't really bother. Now, this does initial physical damage, which is quite high, especially if you crit it, but it also hits all the enemies in front of you, for the ones that were hit, with a damage over time effect for 5 seconds. Above all, however, for slotting this on your bar, you gain a 5% increase to weapon damage, increasing obviously your overall damage, which is really, really nice. So this is a passive bonus. We use it in oh shit situations when our resources are really low or the boss is really low and we've got nothing else left. That will make more sense when I get to the passives, but just note that for now. Back bar. Vigor. Not only can we deal lots and lots of damage, not only are we not that squishy for a DPS, considering most have like 15, 16k health, we have 18.5, we have a heal as well. So this isn't one of those skeleton cheese builds where you just put on loads and loads of stack and bonuses and just do what you can. I actually slot a heal, and I use it. Now, this is in the Assault skill line. Resolving Vigor, you can get this from PvP. You need to make sure that you level your Assault skill line up first by getting Alliance points. Now, there's several ways to do this. You can, of course, farm Cyrodiil and kill people or capture keeps or whatever you fancy doing. Find a Zerg and surf the hell out of it if you want. Or you can go into Battlegrounds. If you go into Battlegrounds, even if you lose, you get points for finishing a whole match. So don't rage quit. You will get points if you lose. Also, very important point. This is a heal. It heals anyone caught in here, you and 5 others, once a second for 5 seconds. I see many people doing this. Don't do that. You need to manage your sustain. You use this when you need to. Heal everyone, heal yourself, whatever, and then carry on. If it runs out and you need another heal, fine, go for it. But don't recast it if it's still running. It's not efficient enough. Now, the next ability is Poison Injection. This is in our bow skill line. Surprise, surprise, with it being on the bow bar. It's the 5th ability to unlock. It does take some time. This is Poison Arrow to start with, but this is Poison Injection you want to morph it to. There's an initial hit of poison damage, and then it does a nasty damage over time ability, more poison damage in fact, for 10 seconds. This has got execute power. The lower the target's health while under 50%, the more damage this does. And it multiplies up to 260% more damage. It's absolutely mental. But I see a lot of people using this as an execute, rather than a passive damage over time as well. Don't just put this on at low health. Put this on all the time. It's really, really strong. Caltrops, again, in the Assault skill line. This is underneath Vigor. This takes a bit longer to unlock in PvP. If I can find the bloody Assault skill line. Where have you gone? There it is. Now, what you need to do with this is basically fire it, as so. Massive area of effect. Everything caught in here will be snared, so its movement speed is slowed down, if it can be, unless it's immune. And you'll also do an initial physical hit when it lands. But then you'll do about 2k a second, every second, to every single enemy caught in here, before buffs. It's really, really powerful. Make sure you keep that on the ground at all times. Molten Armaments. This is in our Earth and Heart skill line. Second ability unlocks. You get it very, very early on, and you want to make sure this is active all the time. It does cost magicka. You have to make sure you time this perfectly. Now, our rotation does require us to put this inside of it. If you activate it, it will give you 40% increased heavy attack damage. It will also grant you major sorcery and increase your spell damage by 20%, which is not useful for us because we're not using spell damage as a base factor, but other people might be. So for 5 other people, this actually grants them major sorcery as well, which is quite nice. But this says it lasts 39.6 seconds, and it does, but you're going to want to keep this up every 20 seconds if you can help it. The reason for that I will get to in the passives. Now, make sure weapons glow, and there's your buff in the bottom there. You can see that it gives you major sorcery, and another one. There's a buff there for 20 seconds. We're going to get to that, and then you're going to understand why this is important to keep this up every 20 seconds, not every 40. However, that's a very important skill. Make sure you use it. Endless Hail, this is in the bow skill line. Now this is incredibly powerful, especially with a Maelstrom weapon. Just like Caltrops, it puts an AoE on the ground. A bit smaller, in fact. Caltrops is this big. Endless Hail is this big. Everything inside of here, instead of taking damage every 2 seconds or 1 second like most damage over time abilities, this does damage every half a second for 10 seconds. Physical damage, in fact, and it's really, really, really powerful. This must be on the target at all times. Do not let it drop. If it does drop, I know things happen like that. There's not a lot you can do about it, but make sure that you get that reapplied as soon as possible. Anything more than a 1 second gap between these casts, or between the durations even, is a big loss in DPS. It's massive. Now, our ultimate on our back bar is, of course, Standard of Might. This can be switched out, however, depending on the situation. Remember, this is an advanced build. You have to think a lot. In certain situations, you might have to change stuff. So, generally, I would use this as my main ultimate. It's very, very expensive. It lasts 17 seconds, and anyone caught inside of this banner will take flame damage every second for the whole duration, which is quite high. Also, for standing in it, if you're inside of it, any damage that you do or take is increased or decreased by 15%. Now, just in case that was confusing, the damage you deal is 15% more, and the damage you take is 15% less. Also, there's a synergy attached to this as well, so people are paying attention, and they should be. If they take a synergy from you when you put this banner down, they will physically chain enemies to the banner and do nasty flame damage and pin them for 5 seconds. It's really, really powerful. Don't know if I've got enough ultimate. I might be have it? No, I don't. How much ultimate have I got? Ah, nearly. Here we go. There's the banner. Anything you do inside of there will be absolutely insane damage, and of course you take less damage as well, so you get tanky. Now, what you need to do here is pay very close attention to when you should use this. Don't just run into a fight and slap a banner down. That is very, very inefficient. You need to make sure that you cover your sustain, and Dragonknights, when I get to the passive this will make more sense, benefit from a really nice sustain bonus by very carefully timing their ultimates. It's not just used for damage, it's used for sustain as well. That's why Dawnbreaker is an oh shit button rather than a damage button. Now, while the banner's down, say this area here, you need your damage to already be ticking. You need it to be ticking over, you need to be lower on sustain, so that then when you pop it, everything that's already running will escalate, and everything that you reapply will then continue to do loads and loads of damage. Again, if you just throw the banner down, nothing's running. No one's taking additional damage yet. Get your dots in first, then use it. It's very, very important. Now, you can switch this out to corrosive armor if you want. It's a cheaper ultimate cost. It does do poison damage to nearby enemies, and it lasts for 10.8 seconds. However, while this is active, you cannot take any more than 3% of your entire health bar in damage from any hit unless it's a guaranteed mechanic built one-shot. You basically go into God mode. And during this, of course, all of your attacks ignore physical resistance. So I know people are fighting to get penetrating values up and debuffs down on so that the resistance of the target goes down and so on and so forth to try and hit cap so you can do as much damage as humanly possible. This does it for you. All targets effectively have 0 resistance while this is active. Now, of course, the banner is potentially stronger in terms of damage and lasts a very long time and is more expensive, which is important. But if you're in shit situations, or if you are in certain dungeons or trials perhaps, where this is going to be required, maybe you're going for a no-death run, maybe it's really tricky, you don't have a healer, maybe the healers have all died and you don't know what to do. If you fire this, you got 10 seconds God mode, use your brain, and do what you need to do. Whether it be picking people up, finishing a boss off, or just making sure you don't die because you don't have a healer. Whatever. It's up to you. That's a choice that you can make. Rest of the time, use the banner. Now, we're going to go into passives. Again, this is an advanced build, so most people will probably know what these do anyway, but if you don't, I am still going to explain them, and I'm going to show you lots of little tips and tricks as well. Ardent Flame, very important stuff, of course. Combustion, this was changed in Summerset, and it is incredibly powerful. It increases the damage of your burning and poison status effects. Now, just to note, we are doing poison damage here, and we're doing poison damage here. So, Poison Injection and Venom Claw. We are also doing flame damage with Flames of Oblivion, and we're doing flame damage from our banner when that fires. So, we can actually get either one of the two burning status effects, which are a small damage over time effect. Poison being more aggressive than flame, of course, because we're using physical damage, not magic damage. However, it's stronger for the Dragonknight by 50%, so really, really handy. And if you do apply one of those status effects, it's chance-based, but if you do apply one of those status effects, you can actually get resources back. So if it's burning, you can get 500 magic back. If it's poison, you can get 500 stamina back. And this can happen once every 5 seconds. This wasn't in the game before. This is new to Summerset. It's really, really nice. Before, it used to just give us extra damage. Now it gives us sustain as well. When you deal damage with an Ardent Flame ability, you reduce the enemy's movement speed. That's a bit meh, we're not too worried about that, but get it anyway. Increase the damage of your Fiery Breath, Searing Strike, and Dragonknight standard abilities by 3% and the duration by 2 seconds. So, this is actually Searing Strike to start with, so it increases the duration of that, meaning it's now 10.5 seconds instead of less. And of course, our banner as well gets a longer duration and more damage. Really, really handy stuff. Now, what else have we got? This one increases the damage of your flame and poison area of effect abilities. So our banner and our corrosive armor, if you're using them. Nothing else. Now you can, of course, use Noxus Breath in certain situations if you really want to, especially if you don't have Caltrops yet. That's a good substitution. It's not the same damage, but it's a nice filler if you don't have Caltrops yet. And if you do, this ability will be affected by that passive because it does count as AoE. But we won't go into that skill so much because we're not using it. Draconic Power. This is actually so-so. We don't need all of these. There are situations where you may want to slot a resistance bonus, or resistance buff rather, which is volatile armor, or the other morph, whichever you prefer, which will give you 5280 resistance across the board, which is major resolve and major ward. I barely use this, but if you ever want to use it, of course you will benefit from some of these passives. If not, don't worry. This increases the amount of damage you can block. You will be blocking during mechanics, so I'm expecting you to understand what mechanics are, and most of the time you should do, especially if you are watching an advanced video. So you know what a block is. You know when you have to block, and if you do need to, you take less damage. While Draconic Power ability is active, your healing received is increased by 12%. We don't have one active, we're not using one, but like I said, if you do use a resist buff, then of course you can benefit from higher healing received. Up to you. Increases your health recovery by 5% for each Draconic Power ability slotted. Again, if you had a resist bonus, you'd get that. But we don't, so there's no point. And we're vampires, so we're not that interested in it. However, these are your choice. These two here are not essential to the build, but if you want to alter it and put a resist buff on, that's up to you. This is important, however. It increases your spell resistance by 3299. Dragonknights get massive spell resistance. Make sure you get this as soon as possible. Earth and Heart. Really, really important stuff. Crucial skill line for the Dragonknight, and you must make sure you get all these passives. Increase the duration of your Earth and Heart abilities by 20%. So if you're using Corrosive Armor, it lasts longer, 10.8 seconds rather than less. And of course, Molten Armaments is boosted to its maximum of 39.6. So you want to get that passive. Battle Roar. If you cast an ultimate, you will get back 46 health, stamina, and magicka based on the ultimate's cost. So for every 1 point, you get that back. Which is why you want to use the most expensive ultimate possible, which is 250, and you will get a massive amount of resources back. Now this is also very important. It takes time to build ultimate. So if you throw down your banner instantly, like I said earlier not to do, you are going to fill resources that are already full. And now you're going to be trying to fight your ass off to get ultimate back while burning through your resources to try and get this up again, which will obviously inevitably mean that you have less resources than you could have had. So what you need to do is get your damage down, do what you can do as far as damage and survivability and sustain is concerned inside your rotation, and then once you get fairly low and your ultimate's ready, that's when you then fire it, and then your bar will fill up again. Let me build some ulti real quick on something. There's a mud crab or something. If you're not familiar with ultimate gain, by the way, what you need to do is a light attack or a heavy attack will give you 3 ultimate back every 1 second. So we hit this dude here and just wait. Watch, my ultimate will build up. 3 a second. I don't have to spam loads and loads of skills to build ultimate, if that's what I'm doing. We'll get enough for Dawnbreaker, just so you can see what happens to my resources. There's a passive in that it gives me ultimate as well. I'm not going to get to that. He's going to die, I think. Don't die yet. Don't die. There we go. Okay, now, I'm going to spend some of my stamina. Said don't spam that. See how quick it goes? Watch my stamina. There, it went up. That's your oh shit button. If you get really, really low, or the boss is nearly dead, that's when you use Dawnbreaker. Now, if you used a banner instead, you'll get double what you just saw me get. You don't want to use that at full health or full stamina. You want to use it when you've used stamina. So that's why you get your damage down first, do what you can do, get down to as much as you need to, and then fire the ultimate. It's all about timing. It makes a big, big difference to getting that right. Now, of course, these Earth and Heart skills are very, very powerful past this, because we have this. When you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you and your group members within 30 meters gain minor brutality for 20 seconds, increasing their weapon damage by 5%. So, for activating this, you get 5% increase to weapon damage, as do 5 other members of your group. Now look very carefully. The hammer in my buff timers on the far right is running down. It's like 9 seconds, 8 seconds, and so on. And you can see that Molten Armaments still got a massive duration left. Molten Armaments lasts 40 seconds. Minor Brutality lasts 20. There it goes. It's gone. Reapply it, and it comes back. Reapply it again, and it comes back. 20 seconds. If you apply Molten Armaments once every 20 seconds, which is tricky, but if you can do that, you will make sure that that buff will stay with you and your group the whole time. So that is why you reapply that particular skill once every second rotation. It's not quite every 20 seconds, but it's very close. Also, the strength of that, if you want to know what that is in flat stats, is actually very, very high. Minor Brutality to someone that does physical damage is very, very beneficial indeed. You see a lot of people trying to throw that into other classes DPS tests, which they probably shouldn't do. Because, for argument's sake, if you have 4k weapon damage, and you get a 5% increase to weapon damage from this, you gain 200 weapon damage for the privilege. It's really, really nice. You want to keep it up all the time for you and your group, but when you're seeing these skeleton passes where you can see someone kind of doing some of this really quickly, and all of a sudden you can't see it on their buff timers because they're hidden it up, that's giving them 200 extra weapon damage, or maybe even more depending on how much flat they've got. So just consider that. It's a very, very strong buff, and very overlooked, I might add. Now, one of the other bonuses for this is that if you activate that ability, because it's an Earth and Heart ability, you get ulti back. Once every 6 seconds, if you fire this ability, you'll get ultimate back. So that will help as well. And Helping Hands above all, if you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you get 990 stamina back. So, when you block, you don't get stamina back. You'll see that my stamina is now frozen. But if I activate this ability, I get stamina back. So, this is why this skill is so important. For activating Molten Armaments, just once, 3 ultimate back. 20 seconds for me and 5 other people of Minor Brutality, 40% increase to heavy attack for me, and 990 stamina back, all in one button. Really, really powerful. Make sure you keep on top of that. Keep a mental note of the buff timers, a physical note if you want, because you can see them on the screen. Keep a note of what they look like, a visual if you like, and make sure that you keep this up once every 2 rotations. Not just for the bonus uptime of the buff, but also for your sustain as well, because you want that stamina back and you want that ulti gain, because you want to be able to use your ulti again to get stuff back. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but this skill line is very, very important indeed. Now, dual wield, of course. Get every single one of these passives. They are going to benefit your DPS no matter what. Increases the damage of dual wield abilities by 20%, which is huge, against targets under 25% health. That's your light attacks, your heavy attacks, your bloodthirst, your blood craze. All of them count. Even Steel Tornado. Yes, it's an execute. Yes, it does more damage the lower health they have, but it's a dual wield ability, so this further boosts it. Increases your weapon damage by 6% to your offhand weapon damage. Now, I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with this, but your offhand weapon, the one in your other hand, your second weapon, actually has less flat damage. This boosts it up a little bit. Reduces the cost of dual wield abilities by 15%. Very important, of course. You want to make sure that you can use them as much as possible, so you want to get the cost down. Gives you a 15% damage bonus when attacking stunned, immobilized, disorientated, or silenced enemies. That's very, very important, so things caught in CC effects, you will actually hit them harder. This also is very, very important. I'm using a dagger and an axe. I know visually it looks like I'm using 2 swords. That's just a costume or an outfit if you like, but I'm actually using an axe and a dagger. The axe bleed you get is insane. 8% chance while doing melee attacks to give them, the target even, a 6-second damage over time bleed effect, which goes through resistances, and it's free. It hits really, really hard. It's damage over time as well, so we're spec'd for that, so it's really, really nice. And of course I'm using a dagger, like I said, so we get a crit bonus as well. So we have a crit chance increase. Bow, of course, make sure you get every one of these as well. Gives you a damage bonus for up to 12% against enemies at longer range. So if you are kind of approaching a fight, you hit them with a quick volley and a poison injection. If you're up to 20 meters away from them, you'll hit actually a bit harder. Quite a lot harder. But of course, the majority of the time, we're in the face of the enemy. So this is kind of on approach, or while you're moving around in mechanics, you will get a bonus to damage. Increases the crit chance while on that weapon. So while you're on the back bar, obviously you don't get the bonus for the dual wield, but we do have a bonus flat in here as well. Reduces the stamina cost of bow abilities. They are expensive. We do want to make sure we get the cost down. Hawkeye, this is very, very important. For every light attack you do, you will get given a 5-second bonus of 5% increased damage to your bow abilities. Take into account this here, this volley, is incredibly powerful because of the Maelstrom weapon. Light attack will increase it by another 5. Another light attack will increase it by another 5, and so on and so forth. And that stacks, but that lasts 5 seconds. So, if you reapply it within the 5 seconds, it will give it another stack, or it will stay up depending on how many bonuses you've got, up to 5. If you let it drop within 5 seconds, it will fall off and you have to reapply it. Now, if you're a bow build, which I do have on my channel, by the way, it's a Yogi build for the Warden, you'll notice that you can keep a light and heavy attack up easily. You can have that full 5 times stack and bonus, 25% increase, all the time. On this particular build, we're mostly on the front bar during the dual wield stuff. We're on the back bar for a little while, so we will not be able to get that full bonus, but we will be able to get some of it. Every first rotation, you'll get 2 bonuses, and every second rotation, sorry, you'll get 3 bonuses, just based on how the rotation's set up. It's not negative that we're not getting the full bonus. It's negative if you don't light attack. You've got to make sure you get the bonuses that we can take advantage of. So it's really, really nice. Now, this one here, when you dodge roll, you will be granted Major Expedition. So basically, if you dodge, like this, you get 5 seconds faster run speed. So your evasion is up, basically. If you are in trouble, you've got to get somewhere quick, dodge roll first, and then leg it, and you're good to go. Don't overspam dodge roll, however, because if you look at my buff timers down there, there's a dodge roll. If I do it again before the timers run out, I get a penalty, and it costs me more. So be careful. Light armor is irrelevant for us because we're using 0 light armor. Heavy armor is irrelevant to us because we're using 0 heavy armor. Medium armor, get every single one of these. This will increase our crit chance based on how many medium pieces we have equipped. This will increase our stamina recovery and reduce our cost for our stamina abilities based on how many pieces we have. So 2% for each one, for example, for the stamina cost gives us a 14% bonus. 4% recovery for each piece gives us a 28% bonus because we have 7 pieces. Improve sneak and all that good stuff. Mostly for PvP or PVE if you're nicking stuff, but honestly that's not that important. Agility is because for 5 pieces or more you get a 12% increased weapon damage. Of course we do have 5 pieces or more, we have 7, so we get this bonus. And of course athletics, this is awesome. This will actually increase the movement speed when you sprint, so when you dodge roll and leg it you go really, really fast. And also it reduces the cost of our dodge roll based on how many pieces of medium we have. Our dodge roll is using the same pool as we use for our damage. We don't want it to cost a lot at all. We want it to be down as much as possible so that when we do evade, we don't run out of our damage bar. We need to keep hitting. What have we got next? Vampire. We are a stage 4 vampire. 10% increase in mag recovery, which is very useful for us, especially since we've got 2 magic abilities in our rotation. And of course, stam recovery, which is key. We do want to make sure we have plenty of recovery, and that will go alongside of our ultimate usage and our heavy attacks as and when we need to use them. Also, Undeath. This has saved me God knows how many times. If you ever hit 1% health with this passive, Vampire saves your life. It happens. What this does is the lower your health, the less damage you take. So if you get really, really squishy and you go really, really low health, don't panic. The healers have got you. You take up to 33% less damage based on the severity of your wounds, basically. Really, really nice indeed. Now, I can hear people screaming about don't go into fire, or don't be a vampire, in fact, because fire does more damage to you. Yes, you take 25% more damage from fire, but most fire in the game will one-shot you, even if you're not a vampire. If it's like this, step out of it. If it's like this, definitely step out of it. It's massive. If it's a fireball, block it or dodge roll it. And if it's a big line of fire across the ground, it's aiming straight at your feet, just move a bit and come back in. Don't start doing the maelstrom shuffle and doing this stupid run around in circles screaming, oh my god, I'm a vampire, fire's going to kill me. Just move out of the dangerous stuff. It's very simple. If it's there, step out of it. Block, dodge roll, learn the mechanics, then vampire will not be a problem. In fact, vampire will be a lifesaver. It's really, really strong. Fighters Guild, you need these passives. This here, 15% reduction to cost for Fighters Guild abilities. Of course, this is a Fighters Guild ability. It's expensive. We want to make sure we get the cost down. This here, Slayer, increases the weapon damage by 3% for each Fighters Guild ability slotted. We have 2. We have Beast Trap, which gives us 3% increase to weapon damage, and we have Flawless Dawnbreaker. Remember, this is one for stats and oh shit button. 5% increase for slotting it, and a further 3% from this passive. So that's a really, really powerful passive to have. Banish the Wicked is insane. If you kill Undead Werewolf or Daedra, and you get the kill and blow, you will get 9 ultimate back for the privilege of each kill. So more ultimate back means you can use your ultimate more often, which means more damage, and it means more sustain. Make sure that you're the one that kills them. Your Fighters Guild abilities deal an additional 20% extra damage to Undead, Daedra, and Werewolves. We are using 2 abilities. We're using Beast Trap all the time, so if you're up against those types of targets, it'll do more damage. And of course, if you're in an oh shit situation, your resources are low, or the enemy's nearly dead, this will do more damage as well. Mage's Guild we're not interested in because we're not using it. Sigil Order I'm not using either. I have tried it, not just on this character because this character's got very low Sigil Order, but on PTS as well. Countless hours of testing that really didn't outperform, so I dumped it for this particular build. Other builds, very, very strong. This one, not so much. Thieves Guild, don't need that. Undaunted, very, very important stuff. These are minor bonuses, but they are essential. This here, Undaunted Command. Every single time you take a synergy, and you need to take those synergies, you will get 4% max health back, max stamina back, and max magicka back. Every single synergy will either heal you, protect you, shield you, give you damage output, or give you resources back. This will also give you an additional 4% for whatever the synergy does. Undaunted Metal, this will actually give you a 2% increase to your max health, your max stamina, and your max magicka for each type of armor worn, that is. So for heavy, light, and medium all at the same time, you'll get 6%. For, say, heavy and medium, you'll get 4%. We're using nothing but medium. We're using just medium armor, so we get a 2% bonus across the board. Doesn't sound like much, but it really adds up. You need to make sure you get this bonus as soon as possible. We are an Imperial, of course. Our max health is increased by 12%, which is absolutely massive. So we have 18.5k health before we even get any additional buffs in a trial. No Warhorn and Ebon and stuff like that. We have a really good amount of health, so we're not squash. We also have 10% increase to max stamina. That is exactly the same as the red guard, so you won't get any less damage. In fact, you'll get the same flat damage because, of course, you have the same resources. Now, the red guard obviously gets sustain back when it does lights and heavies and all that good stuff. We can cover that with our heavies anyway, so you don't necessarily have to. But if you prefer, you can go red guard if you want. But just bear in mind, you're not going to get this 12% bonus, and you are going to be squashy as hell. Also, to go alongside of our increased health, we have red diamond. Now, instead of getting stamina back for our lights and heavies like the red guard does, we actually gain back health. So, you have your passives here, or your bonuses here from these skills while you're passively using them, rather. Bloodthirsty will heal you for the last hit. Blood Craze will heal you every 2 seconds. Vigor you've got on your bar anyway. And Red Diamond, your melee attacks, your lights and heavies have a 10% chance, which is very high by the way, to restore 6% of your maximum health. So the higher your health, the more effective this is. And this scales off of heal and receive bonuses as well. So if you've got loads of heal and receive bonuses from yourself or from other members of the group or from whoever's throwing out buffs and shapes, this will actually get improved. You can get some really, really big heals from this, and it's got 0 cooldown. So the stacking bonuses from that heal, from this heal here, and from this heal here as well, very, very nice, all lined up together. Alchemy, of course, make sure you get medicinal use as soon as possible. I will put an alchemy guide in the description for those of you that want to kind of max this out really, really quickly. You will need to obviously get some resources and make sure that you have them available, but I'll show you a little tactic on how to level that up really, really fast and fairly efficiently as well. Now, the potions that I'm using are... Where's it gone? These ones here. Essence of Weapon Power. This will give us major brutality all the time. 47.6 seconds, in fact, making our weapon damage increase by 20%. We also get Major Savagery. Now, I know we've got that on the front bar, but if we have this, we have it on both bars all the time as well. This will increase our crit chance by 10%. I know it says 21991, but it's actually 10%. The digits are confusing. They should probably change that at some point to stop making people try to figure it out. Also, it gives you stamina back and grants you major endurance, increasing your stamina recovery by 20% for 47.6 seconds as well. Now, note this here. 45-second cooldown. Medicinal use has made our potion last longer than our cooldown, which means we can keep this up 100% of the time. It's very, very powerful. It takes a little bit of materials to kind of make loads and loads of potions for it, but if you're on an advanced setup, then of course I'm sure you've got access to this kind of stuff, and you will not want to leave home without them. They're very, very strong. Now, I'm going to go into the gear, and you're going to have to pay really close attention to this, because I don't see anybody else using them, and they probably should. Now, first of all, the order of the weapons doesn't matter. I have an axe and a dagger. It doesn't matter if the axe is in the main hand and the dagger's in the offhand. It doesn't matter if the other way around. It doesn't make a difference. What does make a difference is your traits. Now, we're using a Maelstrom dagger. Now, this is the dual wield set. The 2 pieces. The Cruel Flurry set. Now, we have poison on this one with a Nirnfused trait on purpose. We want to make sure that our weapon damage increase is on our main hand. If you put it on your main hand, it's a 200 weapon damage increase. If you put it on your offhand, it's only 50. So you want it in your main hand. So if this was an axe or a dagger in your main hand, doesn't matter which, but this one needs to be Nirnfused. The other weapon, which is the axe for us, needs to be infused with an increased weapon damage and spell damage glyph. Now with infused, the strength is increased, but the duration or the cooldown is reduced by 50%. So The second this runs out, the second it hits 0, you can actually reapply it, and you can have a very, very high uptime on this particular glyph if you make sure that you time your lights and heavies properly and your abilities and don't skip them. When I get to the rotation, that's going to make sense as well, because you can go too fast and it won't apply. So pay attention. But above all, what this does is when you deal damage with a flurry ability, which is our Bloodthirst, the one that heals us, your next single target damage over time ability used within 10 seconds will gain additional spell and weapon damage. Now, let's go with this, shall we? It's in the rotation. The main 3 abilities I'm actually going to benefit from is this single target damage over time ability. So if I hit this first, it then procs a bonus, and then I consume it by applying this. Then if I hit this first again, it gives me another bonus, and I'll consume it by applying this, and it will make it much, much stronger. Then if I do it again, and I put a beast trap down, this also counts. Poison injection also counts as well, but that's not how I'm doing my own rotation. You can use that on a separate one if you want, but for this particular build, it's very, very specific. Now, what you have to do, if you look in my buff timers, let's find something to hit really quick. This dude here. Now, carefully. 16k, 16128. There's the buff. 22230. Or 16k instead of 12. Or beast trap, 12k instead of 8. If you flurry first, dot second, the damage is massive. We are a Dragonknight, we excel at damage over time, and these weapons boost the shit out of it. I don't know why people aren't using them. Probably because it's difficult, but they're really, really strong. Due to this, of course, my 2 5-piece bonuses would mean I can't use a monster helmet. I'm not using a monster helmet, I'm not using a monster shoulders. All of my damage is raw. There is a proc set involved, which you have to keep an eye on and you have to control, but my damage is raw damage based on my rotation. No monster helmet at all. The back bar weapon is a Maelstrom weapon. This needs to be Nirnfused. So Nirnfused on the main hand, Nirnfused on the back bar, Infused on the offhand. Now this has a very, very massive bonus to Volley or Endless Hail. Every single tick, every half-second tick, the next one is increased in damage, and the next, and the next, and the next, until it peaks at end, and then it runs out. Keep Volley up all the time. I'm using poisons on this back bar, so I don't use a glyph. You can use a disease glyph if you want, because if you use the poison one, obviously we've already used one, we might be on cooldown, and then this wouldn't fire. So if you have a poison glyph here, and you want to use a glyph here, use a disease one instead. But we use poisons. This particular one is made with Fleshfly Lava, Nirnroot, and Nightshade. And what this does is it gives us 2 damage over time poison abilities. Again, more dots. Lots and lots of dots. Now this, when it's applied, not only does the damage from the 2 poison dots, which can crit, but you also have an increased chance of applying a poison status effect. Another 6 second damage over time ability, and the Dragonknight gets a 50% increase to the damage of that. So this can obviously boost your damage quite a lot. Now the 2 5-piece sets that we're using are, first of all, 2 Fang Snake. Make sure all the big pieces, head, chest and legs, are in Infused. You want to make sure you've got as much flat stamina as possible, because our lights and our heavies now scale much, much more off of your max resources than your weapon damage. They still contribute, of course, but it's scaled differently now in Summerset, so the more resources you've got, the better. Now, this does weapon damage, which obviously contributes to our damage. Max stamina, again, damage from weapons, light abilities, heavies, abilities in general, it's across the board. And of course, crit chance. We want to make sure we've got as much crit chance as possible, because we want to make sure that we do crit when we hit, because it's really, really hard. And also, when you deal damage, your physical penetration is increased by 860 for 3 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. This ends up being over 4k. It's very, very good. It goes through the target's resistance, meaning your damage is higher. Very, very strong indeed. This is why we don't need to go sharpened on the weapons, because we've got a penetrating set. This comes from Sanctum of Phidia, and this takes some work. You have to make sure that you are always hitting the target. Basically, as long as you do damage once every 3 seconds, any damage while the set is on, you will gain a further bonus up to 5 times. And any damage you do once it hits 5 times, it will just keep reapplying, 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 reapplying. The second you stop doing damage for more than 3 seconds is when you lose this bonus. So you are in control of this. It's not a free proc and all the rest of it. You are in control. So, it doesn't matter which order you put these in, by the way. Because obviously our weapons are covered by Maelstrom, you can have any pieces in jewelry or armor in whichever order you want, as long as the big pieces are infused and the small pieces are divines. The other set we're using is Reliquin. This is new to Summerset. I'm sure lots of you have seen it. There's many pickup groups going on all the time, and people are farming the crap out of this no matter what level they are. It's very easy to get right now. Just get in there, run as many runs as you possibly can, and pick this stuff up. Now you'll notice that this is not the perfected version. This is the regular version. The perfected version has an extra 1k stamina on it, and you need to complete hard mode in order to get it on veteran. However, the regular version is absolutely fine. Upgrade it, you'll be 1k less stamina, but it still performs very well. And you'll see when I show you the demonstration on target skeleton that this is borderline broken if you can actually manage to use it. What I mean by that, however, is this has a proc that is also controlled by you. This is controlled by you, and so is this. Now we're going to go over that. We have a crit chance bonus. We want a lot of crit, obviously. Gain minus Slayer at all times, increasing your damage done to dungeon and trial monsters by 5%. So we have a flat bonus to our actual overall damage. We also have another crit bonus, which is awesome. And your light and heavy attacks can apply a stack of harmful whims to your target for 5 seconds, doing X amount of damage every second. However, every single time you hit with another light attack, it will add another stacking bonus. So that 195 that goes tick, 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 tick. If you hit it again, it'll do that double. So that on top, then that on top again, and so on and so forth. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stacks up to 20 times. If you continue to hit after 20 times, it will just keep at 20 stacks. And it will do a stupid amount of damage. But as soon as you stop light or heavy attacking your target for 5 seconds or more, you will lose the entire bonus and have to start again from scratch. Just like this one, and just like this one. So it's about maintaining your damage constantly. And with this, it's about maintaining the correct damage. So I will show you how to do this in the rotation in a moment, and this will start making a bit more sense, but this is a punishing set. If you cannot keep those stacks up, do not use it. Now, there is another set you can use, which I highly recommend. Oh, by the way, weapon damage on all the jewelry, 1 Bloodthirsty. I did try Infused. Robust outperformed on this particular build by quite a bit. Robust on 2 pieces, Bloodthirsty on the other. Now, what you can use, of course, in place of this, again, very advanced, is Alkosh. This has a crit bonus, crit chance, minus Slayer, so the same bonus as Reliquin so far, but instead of a crit bonus here we have weapon damage increase, so flat bonus to our increased damage. And when you activate a synergy, you send a shockwave from your position that deals 2k physical damage to everyone in front of you and applies a damage over time for 10 seconds on every single target as well, and reduces the physical and spell resistance of any enemy hit by 310 for 10 seconds. That's huge. Now, something to note very carefully. This is a damage set. This is built for stamina. It's a medium set, in fact. And stamina can utilize this very well if they know how to use it. That may sound stupid. Oh, just take a synergy. False. If you just take a synergy, you might miss. You need to make sure that it is in front of you. The target that you want to hit is in front of you, because this is a frontal AoE. So, every target that you hit gets all of those debuffs and damage over time effects, of course. However, if you hit more than 1 synergy, you will just reapply the physical and spell resistance debuff, which makes sense, of course. But for every synergy you take, not only does it reapply that debuff, it adds an additional damage over time and initial hit to the targets in front of you. So the more synergies you take, the more stacking dots you get, and the more damage you do. It is absolutely mental. I have no idea why people aren't using this, probably because they can't use it effectively, but the more you take, the better. Now, I know, of course, you can have this on your tank. It's been used on tanks for ages, but as a DPS, you have more maneuverability. You don't hold the boss here and stand still in certain fights. If you see a synergy land here, you can move and pick it up. Or you can move here and pick it up. Or this one. Or this one. You can move around, and be careful, and pick up synergies and aim them in a direction that you want them to be aimed. As long as you pick them up in the right direction that you're facing, you will hit the target with that debuff and damage over time. It is incredibly strong. Now, when I get to the rotation and the target skeleton, you're going to see some nutty numbers, but Alkosh can do borderline the same sort of damage if you are in an active, coordinated group with plenty of synergies firing off. Generally, myself, I don't miss synergies. I barely miss them at all, and anyone that is firing off Alkosh next to me normally swears at me because they can't get the synergies and I get them all instead. That's not a bad thing. The debuff is on them all the time, and I'm doing a shit ton of damage. When I tested this with multiple synergies, regardless of what damage the synergies actually do, from a 40k DPS setup, if you add Alkosh and you actively take synergies over and over and over, as long as you've got plenty of them firing in, there's a lot of them in the game that you can take advantage of, especially in an optimized trial scenario, you can get way over 50. It's really, really strong. So I would highly encourage you to get some practice in with that particular set if you want to use it, and you will in a very short period of time see how strong it is. It's very, very strong indeed. But again, it is an advanced set. But for this particular setup, of course, based on most content that I'm doing, unless Alkosh is required, which I can actively use, no problem whatsoever. Two-Fang, you need to keep an eye on your timers, and Reliquin, you need to keep an eye on your timers as well. Now, I'm going to go to my house and go through the CPs, and then, of course, I will then show you a demonstration of the rotation. I'm going to go over this in detail, so this is a bit mental. So, here we go. Right, first of all, into the champion points. In the red tree, 56 into Ironclad, meaning we take 20% less damage from direct damage attacks. 64 into here. 1 for Hardy for poison, disease, and physical. And of course, flame, frost, shock, and magic damage. 13% across the board reduction there. And of course, thick-skinned, 19% into here, meaning that any of these types of damage, if they are damage over time, take this much less as well. Really, really handy. Now, 15 points into here is to get the 4% healing received. So any heals that you do for yourself from your abilities, from your heavy attacks or your light attacks, from the red diamond, from your blood craze, from your bloodthirst, from your own vigor, or anybody else's heals will be increased by 4%. Above all, this tree needs 10 points because you want this. You should be resurrecting people if they die. Don't leave it to everybody else. That's how groups fail and repeat. I'm sure you've seen domino effects where one dies, another dies, and so on and so forth, and no one's picking anybody up, and it's a mess. Make sure you pick people up. Stop doing your damage, pick people up. If you do, you'll take 15% less damage while doing so. So pop a quick vigor, make sure that you're in a position to pick them up, and start getting them rezzed. It's really important. 28 points into Warlord to reduce the amount of cost it costs to break free. We are going to get stunned. You do want to make sure it costs less. We're using the same stamina pool for breaking free and dodge rolling as we are for damaging. We need the cost down. 75 points into Tenacity. We are going to be heavy attacking occasionally. You do want to make sure you get as much stamina back as possible. So 75 points into here is really, really good. Any more points into here, by the way, will not give you anything increased until you hit 100 points, which is 15%. 1% for 25 points mean you only get 3 points in this. What a waste. Don't do it. Mooncalf, same applies. 14% increase to stam recovery. This will give us our recovery that we need. Any more points into here, again, you're not going to get a bonus until you get to 100 points, and we're going to lose out on other stuff. 72 points into Tumbling. I do dodge roll quite a bit. That's how we evade as a stamina, because we can block, but of course we don't have a damage shield. So some abilities, we need to make sure we completely dodge them. Get the cost down. We use the same stamina pool for this as we do for our damage. We don't want it to be expensive. Ignore this. 23 points into Master at Arms, increasing our direct damage. Our Flames of Oblivion, our light attack, and our heavy attack are all direct damage, as are a couple of other abilities when they first fire. Physical Weapon Expert increases our light and heavies again further by an extra 6%. So this is a really nice balance across the two. They do kind of work with each other. 72 points into Thaumaturge, giving us a 23% bonus to our damage over time abilities. Anything, our bleed from our axes, our dots that we're firing off, our Maelstrom weapon proc that gives us the dot will increase that dot by this amount. It's really, really powerful. You want to make sure that you have Thaumaturge really pumped up. 72 points is really, really nice. Been doing countless tests with this, and this is kind of most optimal so far. It's really, really nice. Precise Strikes. We are using a lot of crit chance. We do want to make sure that we do crit, and when we do crit, we want to make sure we hit really, really hard. So 48 points into Precise Strikes here, and we've also got Beast Trap, of course, giving us a 10% increase as well. So it's really, really handy. 64 points into Mighty, giving us a flat bonus to all the damage that we're actually doing by 13%. And of course, Pearson, 34 points into here to give us a flat almost 3k penetration. Now, spell penetration, physical penetration, whatever, is how you basically hit the target harder. You want to make sure that you get the resists down. So if you remove their resist with a debuff, that brings them down. And if you have high penetration, that also contributes to the same pool, the same area, if you like. So if you have a reduction to resistance from a taunt for 5280, and then you have, say, 3k increased penetration yourself, you're actually effectively ignoring 8k and a bit of that target's resistance. You see how they stack together. Now, obviously, you want to make sure you hit cap as much as possible if you're in a trial or an optimized situation. 18,200 for most trials, dungeons, bosses, trash, that kind of stuff. There's some smaller stuff that isn't the same, but generally most things have 18,200. Now, if you find by calculating that you are hitting too high on penetration based on the buffs that you currently have, then of course you can bring this down. If you're not, then of course you can pump it up by using the Lover Stone instead of the Thief. But be careful not to go too far. You can overcap a tiny amount if you want, because let's face it, buffs aren't up 100% of the time, nor are they up on all the trash. They're normally just up on the boss. So play with the penetration if your trial group or your dungeon group permits you to do so. Failing that, if you stick to this flat bonus that we've got, this plus Twice Fang, plus a taunt that you'll be given, and whatever else is there is normally more than enough. You should be just fine. Also, Exploiter passive. 10% increased damage to anything that is off balance. Off balance now has a cooldown of 15 seconds and an uptime of 5 seconds. So every 20 seconds, a target can be knocked off balance once for 5 seconds, which means for 25% of the time, as long as that's active at the right time, your damage is increased all the time by 10%. All of it, just for having 75 points in this tree. It's really handy. This is also why stamina DPS, by the way, in the past, when people didn't quite understand how off balance worked, that's why stamina DPS on Bloodspawn tests, for example, were getting more damage. It's not because necessarily the stamina were stronger. It was because when Bloodspawn does a heavy attack and bounces off the tank's shield, he goes off balance. And stamina at the time were the only ones putting points into this tree, meaning we were the only ones that got this. Something to learn from. Now, rotation. This is going to be tricky. What you need to do, first of all, apart from paying very close attention, is keep an eye on your timers and know what to look for in your buff timers. So let's hit this dude first of all. See that sword there with a countdown? Not the one with the black background, the one with the brown background. See that? That is Two Fang Snake. Now you can see that's stacked up to 5 times already. We need to make sure that stays with us. So as long as we're doing damage, that will stay there forever. If you drop it to 1, 0, our penetration goes down. We don't want that to happen. Another point to make. Keep an eye on these. This is all about keeping an eye on your own buffs and timers. See the blue one above the skeleton's head? That is Reliquin. Every time we hit with a light or heavy attack, we get +1. You see it's up to 3, it's up to 4, it's up to 5, and so on, with a countdown of 5 seconds. If that runs out, watch, I'll let it run out in fact, you will lose a stack on bonus, and you will be punished for it. No damage for you. Start again. That's negative as hell. You've got to make sure you keep on top of that. If you can't use that, and you can't keep on top of your buff timers, it's no good for you. Now, so that's 2 bonuses you have to keep an eye on. Hawkeye. See the pink symbol with the eye in the middle? The dead, it's at the end now. Now it's in the center. Every light attack or heavy attack you do with your bow will stack that up. Do not miss your light attacks, because that will fall off and you will lose your bonus damage to your bow attacks. So you can see we've got to keep an eye on stuff now. Another one to keep an eye on. The dark background with the sword in it. That is your weapon and spell damage glyph. That's your berserker glyph. If that is down, you need to make sure it goes up again. Light attacks, heavy attacks, damage, all that good stuff. If you misclick a light attack, you can actually make that not fire. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but be key on your light attacks. You've got to make sure that you actually make it proc. Sometimes it's unlucky, it's not 100% chance, but I have seen people go way too fast and the actual damage from the light attack doesn't even register. So that doesn't fire. So it's another one to keep an eye on. Now if we look at the buffs again, see the multiple swords with the orange background counting down from 10, 5, 4, 3, you can see where I'm going with this. That is the amount of time you have to apply a single target damage over time ability. So if we do this, that will take it away. If we do this, that will take it away. If we do it again, nothing else will take it. Only single target damage over time abilities. It used to consume the poison status effect. It used to consume the bleed from the maelstrom, or from the axe, sorry. Now it doesn't. It only consumes single target damage over time abilities, including Beast Trap. So you put Beast Trap down, pop, it'll take it. One more it'll take as well, which we overlooked. This is an oh shit button, by the way. See this here? The damage over time effect of this. Dawnbreaker is increased by it. The damage over time effect is increased. It's really, really strong. So if you are in an oh shit moment and there's nothing else you can do, quick stab, whack it. Only in situations where your resources are low and the boss is almost dead, maybe. So, there are some things for you to keep an eye on. Some more things to keep an eye on. Inferno. Lasts 15 seconds. Make sure it stays active. Reapply it when you get to the front bar rotation towards the end, which I'm going to show you in which order to do it in. But that buff is there. The flame, the fireball, keep that active as much as you can. Don't overspam it because you'll run out of magicka and you won't sustain for this. Molten Armament. Remember, it lasts almost 40 seconds, but the buff on the very end with the hammer is minor brutality. Once it runs out, or close to running out, we want to make sure it's reapplied. So our group gets that bonus and so do you. Almost 200 weapon damage increase just for having it active once every 20 seconds. Pay attention to it, keep an eye on your timers. In the meantime, you must keep an eye on your sustain. The reason for that is, of course, you can be very spammy with this, especially if you're very quick with taking synergies, because synergies can now be taken during an ability's animation. So you can get them really fast. Take all the synergies you can get. They will give you so much back. It's absolutely insane. But during that time, keep an eye on your ultimate counter. It's in the options, by the way, in the combat section. If you're on console, you can actually see the numbers for your ultimate and see how much it costs. Time it so that when you hit 250, you can fire off your banner. Don't leave it hanging. Don't get to 500 ultimate, for God's sake, and wonder why you run out of juice. This will keep your sustain up. Also, one more thing to keep an eye on is your potion. You'll see here, it's grayed out. It lasts 47.6 seconds. Cooldown is 45. As soon as that is gold again, the potion is actually gold, reapply it instantly. You can do it inside your abilities, or your rotation, sorry, but not inside an actual animation. So if you are doing a light attack, you can pop a potion. If you're doing this and it's channeling, you can't do it inside of it, but you can do it the second that it's finished. Really, really important stuff. Now, I know that's probably quite confusing, but like I said, this is advanced. I'm trying to give you kind of the stepping stones of what you should be keeping an eye on. And now I'm going to show you the rotation. Now, first of all, Beast Trap as soon as you go in. Make sure already, Beast Trap's fired, of course it has. Put this on first, Molten Armaments. Make sure your Flames of Oblivion is on. Walk in with a Beast Trap and swap bars. Endless Hail, Light Attack, Poison Injection, Light Attack, Caltrops, swap bars. Very, very simple. We'll do it again. Volley, which is Endless Hail, Light Attack, Poison Injection, Light Attack, Caltrops, swap. Now what you need to do is swap very, very quickly. So the second you press Caltrops, so can you see that start getting smaller, the circle getting smaller, like that. As soon as it gets smaller, swap bars. The reason you do that is because the initial hit is stronger on your dual wield because you have higher weapon damage. So if you fire it and it hits while on your front bar, it will hit harder. Beast Trap, when you activate it, there's a cast animation, takes time. You can also swap very fast with this. So press the button, then swap bars straight after, like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, switch, Caltrop swap, 1, 2. Really, really fast. Not both at the same time, one after the other. That's your animation cancel there for you. You are going to need to heavy attack inside your rotation sometimes. So the front bar rotation, we went over the back one. The front bar is Light Attack, Bloodthirst, Light Attack, Venom Claw. Light Attack, Bloodthirst, Light Attack, Blood Craze. Light Attack, Bloodthirst, Light Attack, Flames of Oblivion, Light Attack, Beast Trap, swap. That was a lot of light attacks, I know, but every single one of them gives you another stacking bonus to Reliquant. It builds up very, very fast. You must make sure those light attacks hit. Also, remember, this here allows my Beast Trap to be stronger. But I did other stuff in between, didn't I? But this light attack, Flames of Oblivion, light attack, none of those consume it. Beast Trap is next. It will consume it. It's all done very, very smoothly, so it actually takes advantage of all the bonuses and buffs at the right time. So we're going to go over that again. Back bar, Endless Hail, Light Attack, Poison Injection, Light Attack, Caltrops, swap. Front bar, Light Attack, Bloodthirst, Light Attack, Venom. Light Attack, Bloodthirst, Light Attack, Blood Craze, Light Attack, Bloodthirst, Light Attack, Flames of Oblivion, Light, Beast Trap, swap. That's it. That's all you have to do. Your second rotation is when your flames, Molten Armaments wants to come in. So your back bar changes slightly. Endless Hail, light attack, Poison Injection, light attack, Molten Armaments, light attack, Caltrops, swap. It's exactly the same as before. Endless, light, poison, light, Caltrop, swap. But this time it's endless, light, poison, light, molten, light, Caltrop, swap. Every second rotation. That's very, very important. Don't overspam it, because if you do, you're going to run out of Magicka, you're not going to have enough for Flames of Oblivion, and your rotation is going to suck. You got to make sure it's just right. Every time you cast this, you'll get ultimate back and stamina back, so keep an eye on your stamina. Sometimes you might need to use it a little more often, depending on if you can time it with your ulti or not. Other times not so much. But don't spam it. Now, all those light attacks in there can be changed. Instead of light, bloodthirsty, light, venom, light, bloodthirsty, light, rend. And you can see where I'm going with this. You can actually change it to a heavy, bloodthirsty, light, venom. Heavy, bloodthirsty, light, rendon. That will keep you sustain up in oh shit situations. In fact, if you're in most dungeons or most trials where you don't have too much sustain coming in, say for example, synergies aren't coming in, people aren't firing what they probably should be, and you're struggling, use 2 heavies instead of 2 lights in those situations, and your rotation will be just fine. Your dots will fall off very, very slightly, but you'll get them back with just enough time to carry on, and you won't struggle. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like with an ultimate rotation. Remember, ultimates have to be activated while your stamina is not maximum, because otherwise it's useless. I mean, it'll do the damage, but you won't get the sustain back that you need. So use some sustain, then get it back. Also remember that your banner should already have damage ticking off before you fire it. 17 seconds long is a long time. You want to make sure you got damage running. So I'm going to show you a rotation with the ultimate in play. I'm going to do one without and then one straight after with it. So if we start as I intended, with your buffs on, Beast Trap, Endless, light, volley, light, Caltrop, swap, light, stab, venom, light, stab, blood craze, light, flames, light, beast trap, swap, volley, poison, molten, Caltrops, ultimate, swap. Carry on again. You can see where we're going with it. Obviously you won't see the massive overall bonus on that particular damage because Reliquin is not even peaked. It was only at like 10 or so. But once Reliquin is fully functional, that's when your damage really starts to go nuts. So what we've got here is a demonstration, in fact, of a full rotation from start to finish. It is on a 3mm, but if you follow my Twitter at all, you'll see that I posted a while back actually 3 passes, one with a 3mm, one with a 6mm, one with a 27mm. Yes, I killed a 27mm target skeleton to prove a point. The 3mm was over 50, 6mm was over 50, and the 27 was just under 49. So it's sustainable and it's consistent. So here we go. So hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too complicated. It is a very, very advanced setup. This is my main character. All of the characters are actually mine. I use them all, but this is my main one, and this is how I play it. It is very, very strong, but it is quite complicated, and you have a lot to think about. Inside mechanics and inside buffs and debuffs and timers and all the rest of it, you have got so many things to keep an eye on for yourself. But if you can get to grips with this and you can pull off the rotation and you can keep an eye on all your stuff, you will do very, very well indeed. Just one more point, by the way, as far as Reliquin is concerned. If you are doing light attacks and rotation-y stuff, and you have to move away from the target, Switch bars, do whatever you've got to do inside the mechanics, and make sure you keep a light attack from your bow. So if you're dodging out of shit and you're going to die, just keep your bow up, even if you're not doing anything else. Then when you do revisit the fight, you'll notice you've still got 5 or 6 stacks running. See the blue swirlies? They're already still... Right, now I'll move out of mechanics again. I've got a dodge roll. I'm running away from the Serpent's World Shaper. Get back in. I'm still keeping my buff. Damage is still on. Two-Fanged is still running. Reliquin is still running. We're good. If you cannot keep that up, that's where you're going to struggle. You've got to make sure that you keep the bonus running at all times, otherwise your DPS drops rapidly. Anyway, I'll stop waffling. First of all, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support, and if you are not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you'd like to support the channel outside of YouTube, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website XynodeGaming.com, where all the written guides are for the builds and the dungeon guides, the All About Mechanic dungeon guides. And of course, there is a Twitch link in there as well, because I now stream on Twitch every single day from 10 PM onwards UK time. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching. I fully appreciate it, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.